Good morning, everyone. I want to thank Era and Cassette for that beautiful music to start us off here. Saying hi to everybody. And I want to say welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg, whether you're here in our beautiful sanctuary or you're joining us through YouTube. And the miraculous Robert is handling that for us today. We're so appreciative. Today, the worship committee is handling the service. And my name is Susan Burnore, and I'll be leading the service. And the reason we're doing that is today is Reverend Ben's birthday, and he is the day off. So Ben, we want to say happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ben. Happy birthday to
Excellent. Thank you all. And I'm Todd Wellman, and we're having a little trouble with the mics this morning, so thank you so much to Rob for helping us adjust, and he will keep doing so as the service goes on as needed. I'm also the chair of the worship committee, and today I'm your worship associate. I'd like to mention, if you have comments or requests or feedback of any kind, you're welcome to talk to me or anyone on the worship committee about services moving forward. Thank you so much. And if there are members of the committee here today, please give a wave. There's like 16 of us on the committee. So there's John, there's Reverend Ben, there's Morgan and Michael in the back. I saw Bill earlier, so thank you so much.
Great. First, a quick shout out for last week's annual meeting. It was a great success, so much work. Just want to say congratulations to everybody who worked on it, and thank you for making sure we had a quorum. So everyone, thank you for coming. We have several themes for our service today. First, remembrance and recognition of Memorial Day, which is tomorrow. A few words for new graduates, since so many commencement ceremonies are taking place this week. And the theme for today's reflection, which is what is America's most dangerous myth? A few announcements. First, Dana Foster, would you raise your hand? Dana's an important person in a lot of ways, but today especially, she's looking for help this coming Saturday at the Gulfport Pride Festival. We have a booth, and she could use some help. So see her after the service, please. Also, you might have noticed our Lost and Found buggy is getting very full, so check out, if you're missing something, check out that's in the lobby.
And a final announcement. Today we have a transition to summer party, 1 o'clock at Three Daughters Brewery. We'll remind you later in the service as well.
And also, if you're new to our church, we'd love to give you a wave so we can spot you and harass you after the service. Not really. That's good. Good. And also, and only if you'd like to, we'll bring the microphone to you. Todd has it. So you can tell us your name and maybe where you're from if you're comfortable doing that. Just raise your hand. That's fine. We spotted you. Do you see one? Okay, there's one back there.
Hi, good morning. I'm from St. Pete, and it's wonderful to be here.
Great.
Would you repeat that, Todd?
Hi, good morning. It's wonderful to be here. I'm from St. Pete, and Jody is the name.
Right, thank you. I think there was one in the very back.
Good morning. My name is Akido, and I'm from St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Welcome. Welcome. Todd, there's one in the very back.
Hi, my name is Jamie Delaplane. My husband, Mark O'Donnell, and I are slowly relocating to St. Pete from Philadelphia, where we're members of the Unitarian Society of Germantown, and it's great to be here. And my friend Julie Rayner from Panama City is visiting with me today.
Hey.
Welcome both. I heard there was a hand back here. Oh.
Hi, I'm Jess. I live here in St. Pete, and this is my first time here, so.
Welcome, Jess. Thank you.
Okay. We're really glad to have you. Here's one more.
Pardon my reach here, Gwen.
Good morning. We're Dave and Julie Simons, and we're visiting from Orlando. We go to UU there, and we're in St. Pete dog sitting for a couple of weeks, so we thought we'd drop by.
Welcome, thank you.
Okay. We're really glad you're here. We hope you'll stay after the service and join us for coffee hour. And we're really glad to see everybody. So let's take a moment to turn or stand and speak to the people around you. And remember, not everyone is comfortable with hugs and handshakes and kisses and all that stuff. So be careful and let's say hi to everyone. Okay, if everybody feels properly greeted, let's get started. Let's settle in and get going. I'm going to start calling names in a minute. Lee. No, I'm not using that. No. Okay, let's get started. I want to start with a quick reminder that we are having services all summer. A few people were asking about that. If you're new to our church or to Unitarian Universalism, you won't find a better introduction to our faith than these words from Theodore Parker, a Unitarian minister whose writing inspired Martin Luther King with the words, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." Now, those words came from a Unitarian minister originally. I like these words even more. You'll find them in our hymnal, number 683, if you'd like to follow along, or even say them with me. We use them often because they're a good summary of what our church is. Theodore Parker said, "Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space, its creed, all truth, its ritual, works of love, its profession of faith, divine living."
Thank you, Susan. You're now invited to stand or remain seated as you choose or are able for our chalice lighting and first hymn. April Cook will light the chalice while we read the words of the covenant with one another, which is printed in your program.
And please stand for this and the next hymn if you're willing and able.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And if now I could have my hymn singers and player helpers come up. We'll be doing 121, We'll Build the Land, and the gray hymnal 121. And for those of you who know what just happened, we just transformed into John. So if John, if you're watching, hey, thanks. This is a song we really think captures the vision of our church, what we want to do as we move into the future.
All
Now we have a story for all ages. I'm looking for any children who are here to come up and join me. We've been having lots of kids lately. And we have some little ones right up here. While they're coming forward, I want to remind all of us why we do this every week. We do this so that these children know, and we're all reminded, that we're their church family, that there are other adults in their lives besides their families at home, and we want to know that we love them and they're part of our group. So good morning. I have a story for you today because this weekend is a special holiday. You know what it is? You know what it is? Are you going to a barbecue this weekend? It's Memorial Day. And I have a story about a war hero, but he's a little bit different from most war heroes. You want to see a picture of him? Yeah. He's a different kind of war hero. The story is, and it's a true story, that during World War I, in France, there were some American soldiers, and they're walking along, and they see this pile of old clothes on the dirt there, just really looking pretty bad. And when they walked by it, all of a sudden the pile of clothes barked, because it wasn't a pile of old rags, it was this dog. So they named him Rags, and they adopted him. There was one soldier named Private James Donovan, and Rags went with Private Donovan all through the war, and he was really quite a hero. They taught him to deliver messages between different places in the war, and so he saved a lot of people's lives. And then, toward the end of the war, Private Donovan went back to his base in Chicago, and Rags went with them. And then, after that, Rags was adopted by two little girls whose father was at that base, and they eventually moved to New York, where he had a big reunion with all the soldiers that he had worked with, and some of them whose lives he had saved. And he lived a very long, wonderful life. He was 18 years old, and that's the story of Rags, the World War I hero. I just tell you that so you know that everybody can be a hero, even dogs, okay? Yeah, you too. So, thank you much. We're going to sing you to your classes. Here we go.
And now a reading from Stephanie Hayes. This reading is adapted from a column by Stephanie Hayes of the Tampa Bay Times. It is to this year's graduates, but I think it has wisdom for us all. Here's what nobody tells you at graduation. Life is pretty boring. Sure, the highs and lows are real. You will love wildly and grind someone's heart through a blender, maybe your own. You'll have jobs you hate and jobs you like, and maybe, if you're very lucky, jobs you love. Perhaps you'll welcome screaming infants into the world, racking up those breathless moments the other graduation speeches promise. But you will also have a pair of saggy, ancient sneakers with a singular purpose, climbing on the roof 3 times a year to blow mud and leaves out of the gutters. Not in a fun way. You'll glimpse a bit of elation when coffee goes on buy one, get one at Publix. You'll say things like, the commute isn't so bad if I leave before rush hour. You'll say this at a party. Speaking of which, you will attend a dozen parties you'll remember, and 200 you'll forget. You might visit China or pose before the Taj Mahal, but more likely, you'll be excited to have a favorite parking space somewhere. You will feel an abiding comfort when you get this parking space and you won't be able to explain why. You'll have a favorite burner on the stove, and a favorite mug, pair of socks, a brand of turkey, a gas station. You'll lose touch with people, and you won't understand why. No one did anything. Maybe that's why. You'll miss the magic you once felt at holidays. They will begin to feel like work, expensive, laden with tinsel and emotional labor. That loss will be painful at first. Eventually, though, you'll understand that magic is a limited resource, that it must flow to others, and that the flow is its own kind of magic. You'll realize that the mundane moments aren't the opposite of dreams, but the backbone of dreams. Because one day, while you're folding the same basket of sweatpants you fold every week, considering the people and trinkets and music you've packed into your life, you might feel a different kind of wonder. The thrills are only stitches in the fabric, holding together repetitive, endless reams of ordinary beauty. You'll put your favorite socks in your favorite drawer, plop down on your favorite end of the sofa, pull your favorite pillow over your lap the way you have 1,000 times, and you will just be. Isn't that something?
Now's the time when we take the time to share joys, concerns, and sorrows. Some get sent in to us during the week. Some are handed to us on cards. I see one coming over there. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to type it into the chat, and we'll try and share those. For each one, April is going to come forward. Is April going to do this? Oh, yeah, here she comes. April will come forward and place a stone in the water, symbolizing our community and our shared experience. The first stone is a stone of sorrow that I'm having placed for the passing of Rabbi Harold Kushner. I know many of you have probably read his books. He was such an inspiration to me, especially the book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People.
A stone of joy from Susan Gore. LGBTQ Pride Month kicks off this Thursday in Gulfport with art out at the library and a night of drag at the Hickman Theater. Thanks to all who support the interconnected web of humanity by joining in these celebrations. Remember, one small act can make a difference.
This is a stone of joy from Steve Sanderson. His art show is going to open this week. The Art Out show opens this week at the Gulfport Library. His work will be on display also at the James Museum, Gulfport and at the James Museum, and reception will be held there on June 6th. Steve, would you hold your hand up? So if you want to know more about those two things, check with him.
A stone of concern from Dana. As Pride Month begins, let gatherings be peaceful and safe. And from Jerry Humphreys, a stone for tomorrow's Veterans Day. My poppy may be tattered, but will always bear witness that those who gallantly, with fear and trembling, sacrifice their lives so that we can sit in safety, you will not be forgotten.
And April will place a final stone for all those joys and concerns that remain unspoken, perhaps too tender to speak out loud, and also for people who don't have a community like this in which to share. For our meditation today, we'll do it a little bit differently because we want to stop and recognize Memorial Day. In many cultures, it is said that people die twice on 2 different days. Once is on the last day that they're alive physically, and the second is on the last day that their name is spoken aloud. We want to speak the names of people who have passed away, so we feel their presence and their love for us and toward them. In a moment, I'll ask you to say aloud the names into this quiet space, this space that is made sacred by our presence, by our love for one another, and for the people we name. First, I'll ask you to say the names of people you have lost to war or other conflict. Then, I'll ask you to name people we have lost over the past year or so. When you speak their name, you can say it softly or out loud, whichever seems right for you. After that, we'll sit together and sing Spirit of Life, which is number 123. So now, in this quiet space, I'll start by saying the name of my father, who was so damaged by World War II that he died by suicide 30 years after the war ended. I invite you to speak other names who died because of war. His name was Robert Tuggle. Thank you. Now I invite you to speak the names that we've lost over the past year or so. I'll start with two names that are important to this church, and there are others, but I'll start with Tom Archibald and Sally Carville. Thank you.
Number 123 in the gray hymnal. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
You may have read some articles like this one lately, because it's based on a report by the U.S. Surgeon General, and there were a lot of articles written about it. He said, widespread loneliness in the U.S. poses health risks as deadly as smoking. The U.S. Surgeon General said this in declaring it as the latest public health epidemic. Dr. Vivek Murthy said, we now know that loneliness is a common feeling that many people experience. It's like hunger or thirst. It's a feeling the body sends us when something we need for survival is missing. Millions of people in America are struggling in the shadows. That's why I issued this advisory to pull back the curtain on a struggle that too many people are experiencing. Research shows that Americans who have become less engaged in worship houses, community organizations, and even their own family members in recent decades have steadily reported an increase in feelings of loneliness. Loneliness increases the risk of premature death by nearly 30%, from a greater risk of stroke and heart disease, as well as complications from depression, anxiety, dementia, according to this research. Our next reading addresses that in a different way. It addresses interdependence, especially the need to connect and focus on the needs of others.
Wait, Susan,
It is the need.
The needs of others?
Todd.
You know, A need I often have is when there's a theme that matches a song, I feel like we need to sing that song, or someone needs to sing it. So why don't...
I give up.
Why don't you have a seat here? That sounds good. Aaron, let's get going. I've always had the hope that on the day I go to heaven, Heavenly Father will shake my hand and say, "You've done an awesome job, Kevin. Now it's our turn to go out and set the world's people free. We can do it together, you and me, but mostly me." You and me, but mostly me, are gonna change the world forever. 'Cause I can do most anything, and you can stand next to me and watch. Every hero needs a sidekick, every captain needs a mate. Every dinner needs a side dish on a slightly smaller plate. And now we're seeing eye to eye. It's so great we can agree that Heavenly Father has chosen you and me, but mostly me. Something incredible. I'll do something incredible. I want to be the you who changed all of mankind. Something I've foreseen now that I'm 19. I'll do something incredible to blow God's freaking mind. And as long as we stick together, you're out of my way, we'll change the world forever and make tomorrow a better day with mostly me. So let's sing about it till we do it. How ready and psyched are we? And life is about to change for you. And life is about to change for me. And life is about to change for you and me, but mostly me. And there's no limit to what we can do, me and you, but mostly me.
I'm so lucky to get to follow Todd. It's never fun like that. You might recognize that song from the musical, The Book of Mormon. And we really appreciate Todd putting that together with Aaron. If you looked at our website today, to see today's topic, you saw that I shared the beginning of a poem by Rumi, an ancient Islamic poet. My latest nerdy hobby, and I have lots, but the latest one is memorizing poems. And this one was very easy. It's called Out Beyond Ideas, translated by Coleman Barks. I always remember him reading this with a Southern accent. He was a professor at the University of Georgia. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other don't make any sense. So what's that poem about? Is there anything beyond ideas, beyond right and wrong? Why doesn't the phrase each other make sense? I chose that poem in reaction to an essay I read recently in the New York Times, and also to the research from the Surgeon General. The article was, "Can We Put an End to America's Most Dangerous Myth?" by Alyssa Quart. I'm also reading a book called Myth America, I apologize for the pun, but it's about, it's written by historians about a lot of the myths that we are fed often today. The myth of widespread voter fraud, the myth surrounding Confederate monuments. But this author, Ms. Quartz, contends that the most dangerous American myth is the one about American independence, both as individuals and as a country. The Surgeon General agrees. Catherine Wasson of the Institute for Bioethics at Loyola wrote an article that had an even better title. Rugged American individualism is a myth, and it's killing us. She writes, the reality for all of us is that none survive or flourish without the help of others. In addition to the deaths from loneliness and isolation, we saw the results of the rugged individualism myth in our country's response to the COVID crisis, when people claimed they could do their own research. We see it when a state like Texas drops off the national power grid, only to have its citizens freeze during a really bad storm. When states like Florida refuse to take federal help for its citizens. What can we do about the pervasiveness of this myth? How can we fight back against the belief that each of us should be tough and independent, and that we're somehow weak and kind of un-American if we're not? In her article, Catherine Wasson says that one way is to use personal stories and narratives to draw out our common humanity. Share stories that illustrate our very real dependence rather than our imagined independence. So I'm going to do that this morning. I'm going to tell you two stories, personal ones, one kind of dramatic, one very mundane, about being dependent. I apologize in advance for the drama of one and the boringness of the other. The dramatic one. Many of you know that my former husband and I lost a son, my stepson actually, Matthew, when he was 18. He was a freshman at University of North Carolina. It was sudden and under tragic circumstances. It's beyond imagining. I won't burden you with that story. But what you might not know is that this news reached us when we were living in Jakarta, Indonesia, half a world away. A little bit more background. We had moved there from Moscow, and before that, Kazakhstan. And going to Indonesia was kind of a reward to me from my company that I worked for, IBM, because it was such a terrible post to be in Moscow. They sent me out there. Anyway, I had been successful in a really difficult circumstance in Moscow and Kazakhstan. This is not long after the breakup of the Soviet Union. And so I was feeling like Supergirl, that I could do anything, handle whatever. Indonesia was a piece of cake after Russia. We received that terrible phone call in the middle of the night, around midnight. And I realized immediately that my own grieving would have to wait, and that my number one job was to try and take care of my husband. But within a couple of hours, I realized I had another number one priority. That was getting us from Indonesia to North Carolina as soon as possible, an 18 to 24-hour trip. Our other son, Nathan, was also a student at UNC, and he was dealing with this alone. Then I remembered that we had another problem. We did not have our passports at the moment. 2 days before, we had delivered them to the embassy to get some kind of special visa, and we were told that we could pick them up in a couple of weeks. And the third realization was that I was emotionally and physically utterly incapable of solving these two problems, tickets and passports, myself. I had only been in the country a few months. I knew no one at the embassy, and this was before online reservations. I was a wreck. So what to do? 5 days before, I had attended an event at the local chapter of the American Chamber of Commerce, not always my favorite organization. But I met its executive director, an American woman named Carol Walker, and we had exchanged business cards and home phone numbers with a vague let's do lunch kind of meeting. I knew she had been in the country for years and spoke fluent Indonesian. Desperate, I called her, woke her up at 2 in the morning, and told her what had happened. She immediately offered to come over. I said, what I really need is not emotional support, it's practical support, tickets and passports. She said, I am coming over. Give me your driver's license, whatever IDs you do have, and an American Express card, and I'll take it from there. She came over, got those things, and said, take care of your husband and pack your bags. I'll be back. She spent the next 4 hours on the phone with Delta and was banging on the door to the embassy an hour before it opened the next morning. By 10 o'clock, she was at my door with tickets and passports and a driver to take us to the airport. When I look back on that, on what she did, my first feeling is, of course, immense gratitude for all that she did. But I also feel a little bit of pride that I let Supergirl have the humility and courage to ask for what we needed. She was a stranger. We became friends, of course, and we're friends to this day. And I appreciate what she did and also the lesson that I gained from it. The second very mundane story about my dependence on others is a little mantra kind of story I tell myself when I'm making my breakfast every morning, practically every morning. I have a very simple, not very healthy breakfast, Diet Coke and toast. My friends are smiling at the toast. I know, no lectures on Diet Coke and the glories of coffee, that's what I have. What I think about almost every morning is how much civilization and cooperation are necessary for me to have that very simple meal. Forget about the Diet Coke, no one wants to know how it's made. But just the toast requires legions of people and processes to grow the wheat, to make all the ingredients, to bake the bread, to slice it, to sell it to me, put it in a bag and send it home with me. The same for the margarine. Then there's the refrigerator, the toaster, the electricity, the little plate, the knife, the cloth napkin Cal and Virginia Fox bought for me in Mexico, because I have to have a certain kind. The list is endless of the things that I need that I'm dependent on others that I don't know to have. It's a mundane, boring reminder every morning of our connectedness, the mystery Reverend Ben refers to when he says that we are connected even when we feel apart. We learn from stories and we all have them. I want to suggest, like the author of that article, for all of us, the author from the Bioethics Center, that we try to tell one another stories that acknowledge our interdependence, rather than stories about our individual successes. Actually, there's no such thing as an individual success. Think about the times when you reached out for help and found it and shared that story. Look at the vegetables on your table and remember that migrant workers likely made it possible for you to have them. Call someone and say, we haven't talked in a week, a month, a decade. What's up? Invite someone over for lunch after church, even as the house is a mess and there's nothing to serve but Diet Coke and toast, which is the case. We're all literally in this together, and the sooner we admit that and embrace that and act accordingly, the better. Which brings us back to that Rumi poem. Why doesn't the phrase each other make sense? It's because when we are in that field, beyond judgment and beyond ideas about right and wrong, when we lie down in that grass, we recognize that separateness is the illusion and independence is the myth. I'll close with a very old poem that we all know. It's kind of dated in its language and its drama, but it says what I want to say so well. It's from John Donne, of course. I won't update the gendered language, so please listen for meaning and not semantics. So famously, he wrote, "No man is an island entire of itself. Each is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less. Each man's death diminishes me, for I am involved in mankind. Therefore, sin not to know from whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee." We're all in this together, and I'm so glad that you're the group that I'm in it with. Thank you.
Here's another message. It was given at a commencement recently by Stephen King. What will you do? Well, I'll tell you one thing you're not going to do, and that's take it with you. So speaking of, it's time for the offertory. The ushers will come forward to make the collection while Aaron plays.
Now, please stand or sit as you choose, but everyone please sing along on one of our congregation's very favorite hymns. It's number 1064 in the blue hymnal, Blue Boat Home. And remain standing, if you will, at the end for releasing the Chalice Flame.
And thank you to April, Deb, and Dana for helping with singing today. It's been really great, and also flute. And this is a great song because it's about the place we are together, based on Susan's message. The song is really about the earth.
Still my trial
Switching gears, April, come on, back up. While April Cook releases the Chalice Flame, we'll say our words for parting, which are printed in your program. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Please be seated. We'll have a postlude and then some final words.
It's always such a lovely surprise when Aaron races to the back of the room to play with the organ. Final words from another Islamic poet. Even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Look what happens with a love like that. It lights up the whole world. Thank you all for being here today. I hope you'll join us for coffee hour right over here, right now. And if you're online, there's a self-directed chat online that you can join. Everyone is invited to join us at 1 o'clock, celebrate summer and Memorial Day and Reverend Ben's birthday at Three Daughters Brewery. Such a you thing to do at 1 o'clock today. It's on 22nd Street South. Thank you again. Enjoy your coffee or Diet Coke.